Imagine this. You're alone at home, the full moon seeping through the curtains like a silent predator, and suddenly a howl echoes from outside. Not a dog's, but something primal, something that sounds like a human being torn apart from within. What if I told you this isn't just a legend? I'm Corvina, and today I unveil 3 disturbing stories that will make you question every shadow in your room, every scratch at the door at night. Stay until the end, because what you're about to hear might change how you look at the moon forever. Subscribe now and give a bite to that like button. You won't want to miss what's coming, Alone in the Dark. I've always been the kind of person who doubted anything I couldn't touch or explain with cold, rational logic. My name is Elio, and I lived in a small town in the interior of Brazil, surrounded by dense forests that seemed to swallow the daylight. My grandfather, a man weathered by time and the stories he whispered at night, always spoke of a family curse running through our blood. The wolves chose us, he'd say, with glassy eyes, reeking of old whiskey and rancid fear. I laughed it off, thinking it was just the delirium of a lonely old man. But everything changed on that full moon night in October 2022, when I inherited not only his isolated house on the edge of the forest, but something far darker lurking in the veins of our lineage. The house was a reliquary of rotten memories, cracked walls echoing with the creak of the wind, furniture covered in dust that smelled of decay, and a locked basement that my grandfather swore was a portal to hell. I moved there after his funeral, needing a quiet place to deal with grief and the debts he left behind. The nights were silent at first, except for the occasional howl of some distant animal in the forest. I worked as a freelance programmer, spending hours in front of the computer, the screen's glow reflecting on my pale face as the world outside dissolved into darkness. But slowly, I started noticing strange things. My body ached in inexplicable ways. Muscles tensed as if stretched by invisible claws, and dreams where I ran on all fours, tasting metallic blood in my mouth. One night, while typing code under the dim light of a lamp, I heard a scratching at the basement door. It wasn't the wind, it was rhythmic, insistent, like sharp nails scraping old wood. My heart raced, cold sweat dripping down my spine, mingling with the house's damp smell. It's just a rat, I convinced myself, but my thoughts spiraled in panic. I descended the creaking stairs, my phone's flashlight trembling in my hand, illuminating cobwebs that pulsed like veins. When I opened the basement door, a blast of cold air hit me like a punch, carrying a beastly stench like wet fur and raw meat. Inside, among dusty boxes, I found my grandfather's yellow diary. Its pages were filled with frantic scribbles. The moon calls me. I change. I'm not myself anymore. I killed the dog yesterday, but it wasn't the dog. It was me, starving. My stomach churned as I read, the words blurred by stains that looked like dried blood. He described transformations under the full moon, searing pains tearing through his skin, and nights when he woke up naked in the forest, dirt under his nails and the taste of iron on his tongue. It's genetic, he wrote. I passed it to my grandson. Forgive me, Elio. My pulse quickened, a buzzing in my ears like the distant roar of a beast. Then I felt the first contraction, a spasm in my arm, as if bones were rearranging. I looked into the cracked basement mirror, and my eyes, always brown, seemed to glow with a lupine yellow in the dim light. Panic rose like bile, my thoughts fracturing into shards of terror. This isn't real. It's hereditary madness, paranoia. But the full moon was approaching, and with it came a fever. My body burned from within, sweat pouring as if I were melting. I locked myself in my room, curtains drawn, but the moonlight seeped through the cracks, dancing on the walls like spectral fingers. The forest sounds invaded, rustling leaves, snapping branches, and howls growing closer, as if calling my name. I scratched myself, trying to stop the itch spreading across my skin, feeling coarse hairs sprouting where they shouldn't. "It's a hallucination," I repeated, but the smell of moss and blood filled the air, and my teeth ached as if growing. I remembered a quote my grandfather underlined in the diary from an old folklore book. "The wolf doesn't devour the man, it awakens the wolf already living within him." Attributed to a hunter who vanished in 1890. The tension grew with each minute, my heart pounding like a war drum. I ran to the bathroom, vomiting bitter bile, and in the mirror I saw my face distorted, elongated ears, sharp fangs emerging. I screamed, but the sound came out as a guttural growl. The transformation wasn't just physical, it was mental, a primal voice whispering in my mind, "Run, hunt, kill." I fought it, digging my nails into my flesh, blood running hot and sticky. But the moon won. I woke the next morning, naked and covered in mud in the forest, with deep scratches on my chest and a mutilated deer beside me. It wasn't just any deer, it was the neighbor's, which I'd seen grazing peacefully days before. My stomach was full, bloated with raw meat. I returned home trembling, my thoughts a whirlwind of guilt and denial. But the worst came when I checked the security cameras I'd installed. There I was, at midnight, writhing in the yard, bones audibly cracking, skin tearing as black fur covered my body. I transformed into something hybrid, not a classic wolf, but a human lupine abomination, hungry eyes fixed on the camera before leaping into the forest. Rereading the diary, I learned my grandfather wasn't the original cursed one. He'd been bitten by my father, who vanished years ago. And now I discovered my mother knew everything. She'd abandoned me in childhood to protect me, but the blood called. And that night, I heard knocks at the door. It was her, yellow eyes glowing, whispering, "Son, it's time to hunt together." I've always believed silence can be more terrifying than any scream. My name is Neva, and this story happened to me in 2023, in a remote village in the depths of Paraná, a place called Vale da Névoa, where the mist clings to the mountains like a shroud, and the silence of the night is so heavy it seems to choke the soul. I was a journalist, obsessed with urban legends circulating in obscure internet forums, and one brought me here. Reports of disappearances in the valley, all tied to a legend about a werewolf that hunted not for hunger, but for vengeance. The story went viral in 2022 after a group of campers posted a grainy video showing an indistinct figure with eyes glowing like embers before vanishing without a trace. "No one who enters the valley at night ever leaves," said an anonymous comment. I needed to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing whatever lurked in the darkness. I arrived in the village on a cold afternoon, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth and pines. The streets were narrow, wooden houses creaking under the weight of time, and the few residents eyed me with suspicion as if I were an intruder profaning a sacred secret. I went to the local inn, a decrepit mansion where an elderly woman named Donna Margarida greeted me with a gaze that seemed to pierce my soul. "You came because of the howls, didn't you?" she murmured, her bony fingers clutching a rosary. I denied it with a forced smile, but my heart raced unevenly. That night, as I organized my notes, I heard the first howl, long, guttural, echoing through the mountains like a lament that was neither human nor animal. I closed the curtains, but the sound seemed to seep through the cracks in the walls, as if it were inside me. My investigation began the next day, interviewing reluctant locals. An old hunter, Zé D'Amato, told me, voice trembling, about the legend of a man named Isidoro, a 19th century farmer who made a pact with dark forces to save his family from starvation. In return, he became a creature under the full moon, but the price was steep. His soul was bound to the valley, and his wrath fell on anyone who crossed his territory. "He doesn't kill for pleasure," Zay whispered, eyes fixed on the ground. He kills those who know too much. His words echoed in me like a threat. And that night, as I wrote in my notebook, I felt a chill. The valley's silence was broken by a scratching at the window, slow and deliberate, as if something were testing my courage. I decided to explore the forest where the campers vanished, armed only with a flashlight, a camera, and a recorder. The trail was choked with twisted roots, the air thick with the smell of moss and sour decay. My footsteps echoed, but sometimes I heard others, heavy, uneven, as if something followed me, always just out of the light's reach. My heart pounded, sweat dripping down my neck despite the cold. I found the abandoned campsite, a torn tent, scattered backpacks, and deep claw marks in the earth dug with fury. My camera caught something strange, shadows moving on their own, writhing in the trees as if alive. Then I heard a low growl from all directions, and the recorder captured a raspy voice whispering, "You don't belong here." I ran, panic turning my legs to rubber, the flashlight trembling as branches scratched my face like nails. I reached the inn, locking myself in my room, but the sound didn't stop. Scratches at the door, a hot breath seeming to pass through the wood. I grabbed my notebook and found something I hadn't written. A phrase scrawled in jagged letters, "The wolf sees what you hide." It was a quote I later found on a deep web forum, attributed to a survivor of the valley who went mad. My body shook, and each night, the feeling of being watched grew. My dreams were invaded by visions of a half-man, half-wolf creature with eyes that seemed to know my darkest secrets, my fears, my guilt, even what I tried to forget about my past. The tension peaked on the third night, when the full moon lit the valley like a supernatural spotlight. I couldn't bear the oppressive silence, the howls that seemed to call me. I decided to confront the truth, returning to the forest with a hunting knife from the inn. I found a clearing where the air seemed to vibrate with a malevolent energy. There, I saw fresh footprints, human but with claws tearing the earth. I followed them to a hidden cave, the stench of rot choking me. Inside, human bones were scattered, and at the back, an improvised altar with melted candles and strange symbols. In the center, a cracked mirror reflected not my face, but Isidoro's, or what was left of him. Yellow eyes, bared fangs, a smile inviting me to join him. Then I realized it wasn't just Isidoro. The mirror showed my own reflection distorting, my eyes glowing with the same lupine yellow, my skin stretching as if something wanted to break free. I ran, but the forest seemed alive, branches closing like a cage. When I reached the inn, Donna Margarita stood at the door, smiling. "You saw it, didn't you? The valley chooses its guardians. You were always part of this." She revealed the villagers knew of the pact, and each generation sacrificed an outsider to appease the curse, and I was the chosen one. But the worst wasn't that. Checking my recordings, I heard my own voice, growling words I didn't remember saying. "I am the wolf now." Have you ever felt that shiver up your spine, like something's watching you right now as you hear these stories? Comment the word wolf and leave your mark in the comments. Subscribe now, turn on the bell, and dive into this nightmare, because the next stories will pull you even deeper into the abyss. Now back to the stories. I never thought love could turn into something so feral and devastating. My name is Rafael, and this story unfolds in 2024 in a coastal town in northeastern Brazil, where the sea whispers ancient secrets and the moon reflects on the waves like a broken mirror. I was a simple fisherman, married to Ana, the woman who lit up my nights with her smile, but who hid a dark past I was unaware of. I saw online a case from 2019 about a couple who vanished during a full moon, leaving behind only torn clothes and footprints mixing human and animal traits. I laughed it off at the time, thinking it was just another urban legend to attract tourists. But when Ana started to change, I realized that terror doesn't come from external monsters, but from those who sleep beside us, waiting for the moon's call to awaken. It all began on a hot summer night, the salty sea air invading our little beachside house. Ana and I had been married for 5 years, and she was always mysterious about her family, saying she came from a remote mountain village where people told stories of ancestors merging with nature in forbidden ways. I loved her too much to question. Feeling her warm body against mine as we slept, the sound of waves soothing our dreams. But lately, she woke up sweating coldly, murmuring words in a language I didn't understand, her eyes glassy as if seeing something beyond the walls. "Just nightmares," she'd say, forcing a smile, but I noticed marks, scratches on her arms, as if she clawed herself in her sleep, and a strange smell on her skin, musky and wild, like an animal that rolled in damp earth. I worked at sea during the day, the sun burning my skin as I pulled nets full of shimmering fish, but my nights were devoted to Ana. Once, coming home early, I found her in the yard, kneeling in the sand, digging holes with her bare hands. "I'm looking for something I lost," she whispered, eyes fixed on the waxing moon. My heart tightened, a chill running up my spine despite the heat. I started researching online, diving into obscure forums where people shared stories of psychological lycanthropy, a condition where the mind convinces the body it's a beast. But the posts went further. Blurry photos of partial transformations, audio of blood-chilling howls, and a quote that struck me from a diary found in a real case in Europe, viral in 2021. "Love binds us, but the curse devours us together," from a victim's letter who killed their partner under the moon. I trembled reading it, feeling those words echoed in our lives. The tension grew slowly, like the rising tide. Ana started avoiding touch, saying her skin hurt, as if stretched from within. I heard sounds at night, low moans from the bathroom, where she locked herself for hours, and at dawn I found tufts of coarse fur on the floor, not from a dog, but something thicker, black as night. My sleep fragmented, dreams where I saw Ana running on the beach on all fours, her form distorted by moonlight, turning to me with eyes no longer hers, but those of a hungry predator. I woke sweating, the smell of salt and blood in the air, and once I saw bite marks on my arm. Not deep, but enough to bleed. It was a dream, I convinced myself. But paranoia settled in, my thoughts spiraling. What if she's not who I think? What if I'm next? I decided to confront her on a waning moon night when the sky seemed less threatening. We sat on the porch, the sea roaring in the background like a warning. "What's happening to you?" I asked, my voice trembling. She cried, hot tears streaming down her face, and confessed her family carried an ancient curse brought by European immigrants fleeing witch hunts. "Every firstborn transforms," she said, her voice hoarse. "I thought marrying you would save me, that love would break it, but the moon calls stronger." Her body shook and I held her, feeling her feverish skin, muscles taut like strings about to snap. That night, we made love urgently, as if it were the last time, but midway she bit my shoulder, the taste of blood mingling with pleasure, and I felt something change in me, a deep itch, as if something awakened. The following nights were a hell of suspense. Ana disappeared for hours, returning at dawn with dirt under her nails and a vacant stare. I followed her in secret, along the dark beach, the wind carrying distant howls that seemed to come from within her. Once I saw her in the shallow water, the moon reflecting on her silhouette, and for a moment I swore her shadow stretched, pointed ears emerging, a snout forming. My heart raced uncontrollably, fear mixing with forbidden excitement. I loved her, but feared what she was becoming. I installed hidden cameras in the house, and the footage chilled me. Ana at midnight, writhing on the floor, bones cracking, fur sprouting as she moaned in pain and ecstasy. "Rafael, help me," she whispered to the camera, but her voice turned into a growl. The climax came on the full moon in July, the air charged with electricity like before a storm. Ana begged me to tie her up in the bedroom with chains I bought at the local market, cold against her skin. "Don't let me go, no matter what I say," she pleaded, her eyes already glowing with a sickly yellow. I locked the door, sitting outside, hearing her screams echo, not of pain, but something primal, wild. The sounds changed, bones breaking, flesh tearing, and a howl that pierced my soul. I banged on the door, calling her name, but only heard furious scratches, as if claws tried to tear through the wood. My body began to ache too, a fever rising, and I realized the mistake. The bite on my shoulder wasn't accidental. I felt the change, muscles swelling, teeth lengthening, an irrational hunger growing. I ran to the bathroom, looking in the mirror, yellow eyes, fangs emerging, and a voice in my mind, "Join her." Ana wasn't the original cursed one. I was. My mother had abandoned me in childhood to protect me from a family heritage I was unaware of, and Ana, knowing this, married me to activate her own latent curse, a dark pact to unite us in eternity as beasts. The cameras captured everything, me transforming first, freeing her, and together running to the sea, leaving behind an empty house and footprints that blended into infinity. I woke on the beach, naked beside her, bodies entwined, but with the taste of blood in my mouth, not ours, but from a missing fisherman. And these stories end here, or do they? Imagine waking in the middle of the night, feeling an inexplicable itch on your skin, hearing a howl that seems to come from within you, and wondering, what if the curse is real? Even a man pure of heart who prays at night may become a wolf when the wolfsbane blooms and the autumn moon shines. Don't wait for the full moon to find out. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and dive into the next nightmare, because terror waits for no one.